I've been around for about 10 years, and I got involved as a non-traditional student in 2010 with the McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship at Mays Business School. It was then under the leadership of Executive Director Richard Lester. Dr. Lester, Professor Hill, Dr. and Dean Jorge Venegas with the College of Architecture, and Professor Don Lewis and Blake Petty with, at that time, Vice President of Research. The 5 of those folks decided to come up with a great response to the 2008 economic collapse. And that led to the development of a white paper written by Dr. Lester and Professor Hill called the Marine Accelerator. And that got me involved in November of 2011. I was with Aggie Angel Network in August of 2010 forward until 2013 and helped that get off the ground. And they asked me, the 5 faculty members that I just mentioned, asked me to help launch Startup Aggieland. And so we did that, and also launched a dorm incubator, which was targeting freshmen who were leaning towards entrepreneurship and undecided on a career path. And we gave them a lot of resources and tools to get started early. And then we launched a high school camp with College of Education and NASA. And that's done very, very well. I continue to teach that. It was canceled this summer for COVID, unfortunately, right up at the last minute. In 2014, we launched a retail incubator at Post Oak Mall, and we also launched Startup Grind. And Startup Grind had launched in California in 2010, around the same time we were talking about doing the Marine Accelerator, which became Startup Aggieland. Startup Grind grew to 650 chapters. When we launched, we were the only student-run chapter, and it was a freshman initiative for our dorm incubator. And it was a low commitment opportunity for our freshmen to host something once a month and get exposed or get connected with entrepreneurs who were from outside of our ecosystem and had enjoyed huge exits. And that led to some other things that we did, which included the freshmen and also undergraduates, because we like to get them started. We didn't want them waiting until their MBA or till their master's to realize the world's a lot bigger than Bryan College Station. It's a lot bigger than their hometowns, and there's Aggies everywhere. And the whole thing with entrepreneurship is connectivity. It's not holing up in some cave somewhere and trying to invent something on your own. It's reaching out for help, reaching out for resources. And by the way, I have a cat with me, so there's a little bit of a distraction here. So you may see a random cat or hear a random cat. So, the beauty about Texas A&M is it is its own ecosystem, but more and more it's becoming connected because it is a world-class institution, and we do have world-class programs in all of the colleges across campus and also at RELIS, and they are all oriented towards innovation, entrepreneurship, creativity, what we call citizen entrepreneurship or leadership in entrepreneurship and innovation. So there's really a path forward for anyone who has an interest in doing something different with their lives. We had tracks at Startup Aggieland when I was there for students who were interested in the finance side, the venture capital side, and you'll hear from somebody today who's done real well in venture capital, actually 2 folks that have done well in venture capital and have been, one of them has been involved since Startup Aggieland first launched, and she's in our ecosystem again, and so I'm pleased to include her as well. We also have a faculty member who from College of Architecture who launched a startup and is now in Austin. She's a licensed architect. So I've got a few folks with me. I'm going to have to check periodically to see who's online. I don't know if Adam's here yet, but I don't want to cut into Rashawn's time too much. So Brian Kirstein, are you with us?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Would you be comfortable chatting with Rashawn Brown, or do you want me to do it?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Rashawn is with the 12th Man. Okay, yeah, I think you would do a really good job with it. And let me briefly introduce you, and since you don't know Rashawn, I'll introduce him. Brian Kirstein started with us as a freshman. He was in the dorm incubator, and last year he went with me to Stockholm on a free trip to accompany me to speak at the Karolinska Institute with the Global Center for Entrepreneurship. We had won a big global award a year or so before for the McFerrin Center, and Dr. Lester had sent me to receive that, and they invited me to come back and speak at Karolinska Institute. And so I needed help because we were also visiting a lot of incubators, accelerators, communal living facilities, co-work spaces. And so Brian helped me kind of break that down and tackle the week-long project. Big asset for me, and he's been involved in everything that we've done. He's gone with us to Silicon Valley. He's gone all free. He's gone with us to San Antonio, to Austin. And so I don't think there's anything he hasn't done in our ecosystem yet. And briefly on Rashawn, since Brian doesn't know him and I haven't been able to get Adam on board here. Rashawn Brown is with the 12th Man Foundation, and I met him at Aggie Angel Network. When I left McFerrin Center a couple of years ago, I started doing a lot with the A&M system and with other universities in the A&M system, and I became entrepreneur in residence at Virginia Tech University. So I joined Aggie Angel Network as a way to continue to support the McFerrin Center sort of from afar. And I met Rashawn Brown pitching at an Aggie Angel Network meeting on campus. And I was impressed because, actually I was impressed that day with his idea because it was the best pitch. But I was also impressed with the rate of growth for his venture. And so he played football in Ohio. I can't remember the exact university, he'll tell you. He's got his colleague with him here to jump into Q&A, but if that's enough for you to go on, Brian, why don't we go ahead and bring on Rashawn, and Rashawn, meet Brian Kirstein. He's gonna jump in since Adam's not with us. He may have got stuck in traffic.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Hey, what's going on, Rashawn?
Hey, nothing much. What's going on?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So, and whenever Adam hops on here, he can come take over. Shelly, if you just want to give me the shout,
Sure.
I'll be more than happy to hop off the chair. So, well, hey, Rashawn, it's first off, would you be willing to introduce yourself? You've got about 146 participants here that don't know who you are, and how would you describe yourself, not only just as your personal self, but also with the work that you're getting into. I'm looking at your LinkedIn page, and we can maybe dive deeper into that. But how would you describe yourself?
I mean, I would just describe myself as just a creative, sports professional. First generation college student. I'm from Ohio. So I'm not originally from Texas. I moved here to work for the 12th Man Foundation 2 years ago in 2018 after I completed my master's in sports administration from Ohio University. So I would just consider myself a creative sports professional. I, use my sports platform here at A&M and, my career thus far to help, start and catapult my business, which is also related to and tied to college athletics. So that's how I would, categorize myself or explain myself right now.
That's awesome. And so, there's definitely a few things that I would love to touch on with you, and we could dig throughout these as we talk. The first one would be, being an entrepreneur while working a full-time job. And I'm sure that takes away from weekends. I'm sure that takes away from, nights, time with family, time with friends. So that would definitely be one of the things that I would love to touch on. And then I would also love to talk about, when I'm looking at your page, with your partnership with like the Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and, that idea of kind of owning your home before, and really working with the people that you already are dearest, closest to, and, maybe talk about how you basically, I'm guessing that's maybe where you started off, and then pushed out. And also, if you'd like, I got a lot of Kappa Alpha Psi friends at A&M. If you want me to loop you in with them, there's a lot of guys that I'm sure would love to get their emojis and stuff, taken care of. So, but I guess the first thing would be, I'm looking at your work with like D9 emojis, and I think that would be a great way to start. I'm guessing you started that off while you were finishing up your master's degree. And can you talk about that process? While balancing first, we could talk about balancing school with starting a company, and then if you'd be willing to dig into kind of how you got it going, maybe what are the avenues you looked into to get some of those initial customers, start getting, maybe some of that native, marketing, so forth. And then we'll dig into other stuff from there.
Yeah, well, I'm one of those guys that, are super involved on campus. So I thrive when I have a lot of stuff on my plate, right? So, when I was in grad school, and my co-founders, he's on here as well. When I was in grad school, someone approached me because, I was, president of Kappa Alpha Psi, my chapter when I was on campus. They were like, Rashawn, you should look into, I develop apps. You should look into, doing these, Greek emojis. And I was like, you think of emojis, you just think of iOS emojis, and you think of stickers. You're just like, well, is that even possible? Can you really do that? So I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm not really interested. But after digging into it a little bit and looking at how, myself and other people, how they use emojis and the usage of those and use cases for those, I said, well, this may be a thing if we can do in-text emojis, not stickers, but in-text emojis like regular iOS emojis. And he said, yes, we can do that. So I was just, okay, how much does it cost? I'm not an entrepreneur. I don't know anything yet. Just tell me how much it costs. If you can make it for me and I can make money, I'll pay you. So I literally paid him money. And until this day, I haven't heard from this guy ever again. And I haven't heard from him ever again. So what happened was that idea burned in me, because once I, was pitched that idea and I, thought about it and did my research, I said, this can really work. And I really want to figure it out. So I embraced that challenge. So like you said, it took a lot of, giving up some things that, other people were doing and things that I wanted to do in grad school, stuff of, hanging out on the weekend and doing other things. I really had a problem that I enjoyed solving at this point. So what I did was I worked with my co-founder, Dorian, who's on the call. He played football at Ohio University, and he was also computer engineering. And he happened to be in my entrepreneur class when we were there. And, he came on and did some wireframes and designed the emojis. We just needed someone to basically create the font that can be installed on the back end. So what we did was my developer now, he's my lead software engineer. His name is Fahad. He's based out of Pakistan. We brought him on board, pretty much laid out the project for him in the way that I can explain it. Because again, at this point, I didn't know much about mobile applications. I didn't know much about emojis. I just knew I had this idea. And the best way I can explain it to you is through other applications, which I'll tie into later and how that goes into where we are now. But after about, a couple months or so, we figured out how to create the application, and we launched. And it was easy because it wasn't any patents or anything on a digital aspect of, the Greek fraternities and sororities, especially the historically Black ones, because they're not in that digital space yet. So they didn't have any, any control over what we can do in the content that we can push out. And with me, on a national level, being involved with Kappa, they were able to kind of support me on a lot of things that I wanted to do and help me, get a free patent attorney and everything that can look over the things that we were doing. So we quickly launched and we quickly went #1 in the App Store. So I looked at this project as like a unicorn project, because I didn't understand how to be an entrepreneur. I had this idea and I literally came into it, running before I had to walk, per se, if that makes sense. So we launched there, and then Kappa wanted to do a deal. They wanted, the biggest thing behind the emojis is that we were collecting consumer data. And for our reclamation things, it's hard to retain membership, and you don't know where they are and their updated information once they graduate college. But the biggest thing here, and I'm pretty sure Aggies are committed and they show that pride and any chance they can get. That's kind of the same with fraternities and sororities. So they download the application, and Kappa really wanted to capitalize on that data so they can cross-reference and for their reclamation campaign. So we were quickly able to secure a partnership there, and that's kind of how D9 Emoji started.
Cool. So can you talk about how was your Greek life the first thing that came to mind, or what made you think, hey, these are the guys I got to work with?
Yeah, so Greek life came to mind because it was something that was near and dear to me. It was something I was passionate about. And it was something that I knew a lot about. So even though I couldn't, technically build a lot of the stuff that was being built, I knew a lot about the product and the market and, who we were trying to get this product to. So it really didn't, click to even think of anything else. It's just like, hey, this is the idea that we have. I know this much about the market. I know this is where they're really hurting. And I know this is where we can make a change. This is where we can make an impact. and it just kind of went from there.
Yeah, and I think, and to be able to tie this back to the class, this is really good stuff when you talk about one, you don't need to know everything as an entrepreneur, right? You know where your strengths are, but you find those people that supplement you where you're weak, right? And you could have gone and spent 6 months and try to learn how to code and maybe gotten an average, right? But you give a call up and you got a guy that says, hey, like I could do this and I could do it today. So
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point to pull from that. I've had that as well with my own businesses. It's almost a pride thing that you have to let that go. You say, hey, I'm not strong at that, but I'm gonna surround myself with other people on my team that supplement me well. So I think that's a really good thing to point out. I would also say, one of the things that I polled is starting a business is so much easier when you're doing it in something that you're actually passionate about. And, I'm sure that the first thought that came to your mind was not, maybe, I don't know, but it's not like, how do I get 100 million customers? How do I get, how do I make this $1 billion company? It wasn't even necessarily that thought process. I feel like you were saying, hey, this is something I'm passionate about, and went after that first, right? So I think those are both really good points.
Yeah, because like honestly, if I looked at it as, a money grab up front, I would have probably drove myself crazy on the obstacles that I was chasing. But because, it was a passion project, just like college emojis, which we'll get into, it was a passion project. I was able to, slow build it and not really put any pressure on myself. And because I was bootstrapping when I was in college and also having those developers and people near to me in my circle, I wasn't really spending too much. So at that point, we were able to do a lot of things and do it at a slower pace where we weren't really looking to scale or looking for much return on it. We were really just looking to make an impact in that space in any way that we possibly could. So it wasn't about the money. And quite frankly, the first week, we made all our money back that we put into development. The first week that it was out on the App Store, and we went actually #1 in the App Store that first week as well.
That's awesome. That's a great, I don't know, like little mental plaque you give yourself, on the wall. And I'm sure that, you're going to have more accomplishments to come. And I think you've gotten to a point where, you've had some success. What is kind of that next step? What is in, and maybe this is a good segue into college emojis.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is a good segue into your career, because I see that you're not only working from the 12th man side, kind of from inward out, but you're also working from kind of the outward in, right? Working with, I see Alabama, I see Clemson, these are big names. And so what is that next step look like? And then I think we could maybe talk about then, about some of your partners and that process as a company.
Yeah, so I'll go directly into that. So right after D9 emojis dropped, I would say about 2 weeks after I was graduating from school, and I was accepting the job at A&M. So when I got to A&M, it was more so I didn't know anything about College Station. I'm sitting around, just moved here. But then, I was also tying back D9 emojis to a passion, something I was passionate about. I'm very passionate about college athletics and, how we reach the fans, how fans engage and how you generate revenue in college athletics. That's something that I've been passionate about. I went to school for it, got my master's in it. It's there, right? So I said, hey, I've worked for the Big East. I've done these things. I understand that not only were D9 emojis a hit, but that's such a niche, demographic. What if I can make college logo emojis, right, with my same software and just it's transferable over into that application? So we looked at that. We quickly put together a beta, and what I did was at the time before IMG and Learfield merged together, I looked at the licensees and who had the biggest portfolio of licenses that I could potentially use. And I was just searching, and I found a company based out of North Carolina, Two Thumbs. And I quickly reached out and said, hey, I just want to set up a call. I think I have a product that you can be interested in. I see that you pursued stickers here, and I've seen that, these are the reviews that you're getting because your consumers want to use actual real emojis. and they set up a call, and we were able to get a deal done within a week. And I acquired nearly 80% of Power 5 schools and probably 80 licenses overall digital to produce college emojis. And we launched a beta in March of 2019, and, you know, had great reviews, a lot of people tweeting it out. There's, you know, easy adoption because that's how you want to use them anyways, right? So we didn't put any marketing spin behind it. We didn't do anything. It was just a beta. So we took the beta, probably gave it maybe around 300 to 400 or so people were using it, close network, and then just some people that asked for the code just to use it. And then we launched fully, was it the first week of the college football season? And we launched around the premise of all primary logo is free, so all schools can engage with each other when you're trash talking or doing different things. So like if an A&M student want to send, you know, horns down to you know, a Texas student, you were able to do that, but you had to pay 99 cents for the, you know, additional emoji packages, but you got your primary logos free. So once we officially went to market, we quickly rose to number 6 in the App Store. Again, I'm still running before I haven't walked yet at this point. I'm still running, right? So we went number 6 in the App Store. We had about, say, 10,000 downloads within 3 weeks. And I'll never forget, I was at the Clemson game. We were playing Clemson last year at Clemson, and I got an email because Apple launched the iOS 13, and they like destroyed font installation. So literally it rocked me because I'm just like, dang, I had just a perfect product, and this is what happens to me, and you can't control it because it's Apple, right? So I'm going back and forth with Apple for, you know, it's August at that time of last year. I'm going back and forth with Apple. You're not responding. They're responding. They're giving me the runaround on what we can do and what we cannot do, and how, hey, you have to revert back to stickers. And, you know, I'm explaining, if we want to do stickers, we can do stickers, but this is what we wanted to create. But because Apple has so many people that they have to worry about, and so many different, you know, markets they have to worry about, they can't just cater to, you know, my specific need and what I want. So I had to learn that. Yeah. So we knew at this point, because the new process said that you had to actually partner with like a Twitter or Facebook to install your font into their platform, their operating system. So we had to take a step back, because now at this point, we had a good product, but we only had about 10,000 users. So, I mean, to be considered for a Facebook or Twitter, I mean, if you don't have 1 million users or so, you're pretty much not even in that conversation. So we looked at other ways of what we can do to potentially build brand awareness to even put ourselves in a position to get there. So we jumped in, we introduced our second product, and we had the first licensed Spark AR augmented reality Instagram effects. And we had, like you see there on Instagram, we had the LSU helmet for the college football playoff, Ohio State, Clemson, and Oklahoma. So that let us jump into that space and also find another stream of revenue, as we couldn't produce our emojis anymore. So that's kind of where we left off there. And we had a lot of traction there, a lot of great reviews. And then that kind of put us into a roadmap where we're just, okay, how can we take this and we bring everything together? So around that time, obviously we're getting to the point of February, March, COVID is hitting. And now, you know, I'm working from home, so I have a lot more time to put towards this. And I'm sorry to be long-winded. I'll probably end after this. I had a lot more time to put into this. So I joined Founder Institute. It was based out of Austin. I was in the fall 2020 cohort. And what they did was, summer 2020 cohort. And what they did was that allowed me to take a step back from running, because like I told you, we built these products, and we were just able to run without really understanding how to be an entrepreneur, how to run a business, all these different things that were really happening to us. So I was able to take a step back and build the foundation of my business, but also, you know, learn how to become an entrepreneur and understand the little intricate things that I didn't understand, or things I didn't know about, you know, market size, and, you know, lawyers, you know, making your company a corporation, like just those little things I had no idea about. So, you know, after coming out of Founder Institute, I had a better understanding of running a business. I had more confidence in myself as an entrepreneur. And then also, you know, working in, you know, athletic fundraising, people say no all the time, right? They say no all the time, and I understand that. So it was easy for me to have conversations after that. And we quickly secured a lot of partnerships, which is kind of where we are now, where we're currently building, and we're talking and we're working with the Facebooks, the Twitters, Googles, and then we have, a major partnership with Ohio State. And then our biggest partnership is with Sports Manias.
Gotcha. And I just, I saw someone sent in the chat, the Founders Academy. I put that it's the Founders Institute, fi.co, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, that's awesome. Yeah, I've seen what they do, and that's a great program. Maybe a good hypothetical question I could pose to you, because I think, a lot of students may be feeling kind of the pressure of, do I just start a business and just learn by doing, or do I take time and just, is entrepreneurship something that, you, at least with what you've seen, is this something that needs to just be done? And eventually it's kind of like an MBA, it's hard to get an MBA without prior experience, business experience or so forth, or is it something that can be learned?
Yeah, I would say that, everyone has their different, experiences or, their different take on it. Right. But, I think that if you have an idea and you really believe in that idea and you're passionate about that idea and what you think you can build, you chase it. Because the best thing you can do, anybody, even in, the workspace, not even just being an entrepreneur, the best way of learning is actually going through it and doing it. And, that's just how it is.
Yeah.
You learn through the process. But also what keeps you going is that, like you said, when you're passionate, you're motivated about something, right? You start with the end in mind. Like, I know the end that I have in mind for College Emojis. So at the end of the day, any roadblock or technical path that I come into, I'm not going to stop because I know what's on the next, on the other side of that. So I think the best learning for anyone in anything that you want to do is chase it, but you're going to learn so much through the process that you're not even really going to care about the results, right? Because the results are going to show for themselves based off of what you're learning and what you're doing.
Yeah. So, one of the
Hey, Brian,
questions
we're
that
going
I've
to have to. I'm sorry, we've got a question in the chat. Let's take that and then bounce to Tom Jackson, and Adam Valenta's online. We'll let him handle the next two VCs. And I really appreciate your jumping in. You're doing a great job. And Rashawn, you're giving us some great information. I'm sorry, we're on a time crunch.
So yeah, the question says,
let's go ahead and take that
do
one
you see
question.
the message?
Yes.
It says, would you say that entrepreneurship is a more figure it out as you go thing, or a plan and execute thing? If I have an idea, I would like to just start and plan as I go.
I mean, I would think that to start anything, you would have to have a plan, right? Now, the problem is, executing it. Like, you don't know if that's going to be the right thing or the wrong thing, right? You don't know if you're going to succeed or you're going to fail. So, I mean, you have to have a plan to start off what you want to do, but I wouldn't just pretty much be sold on that plan because things can change. You don't know what's going to happen next. And that's the biggest thing I learned as an entrepreneur. You have to have tough skin and expect the worst, honestly, plan for the worst. You don't know what's going to happen next, but as you go through these problems and these situations, you're going to learn and work through them. And that's going to help you out. Your first venture may not be the venture that works for you. D9 Emojis was my first venture. It was successful, but then it helped me learn how to run and build College Emojis, where that's probably going to be my most successful, company and my most successful business. But then College Emojis has also turned into me going into, college branded screen protectors. So it's just like, there's not one way you figure it out. You kind of just figure it out and learn through the process of how to run a business. And then once you're successful and you learn how to run a business, then you'll be able to, execute that same plan over and over and over in different avenues.
Yeah, Rahul, I think a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in the planning stage, and everybody has $1 billion idea. I promise, everybody does.
Everyone.
Not everybody has $1 billion execution, right? And so, when it comes down to it, Rahul, and it's not saying going blindly. I think there's definitely ways to plan out, whether it's through a lean startup method or, if it's kind of writing it out. But, in order for you to start seeing if that idea is legitimate, if it's going to have traction, if it's going to have customers, is not going to be through just having conversations with people or through, thinking out loud, talking about it with your friends. It's going to be actually going after and getting customers.
Yeah, going
and,
and
and
and also I would say, you know, looking at people that, you know, have done it before you, their mistakes, what they've done, you know, things that you can learn from them. I mean, like I said, I didn't know anything about being an entrepreneur. It's people like, you know, Shelly that believed in me and helped me out and, you know, mentored me. And, you know, going to Founders Institute and finding other mentors that helped me and tell me what worked for them and what didn't work for them, and being open to criticism. Like the biggest thing that Founder Institute taught me was to think bigger. I was so stuck on emojis. I wasn't thinking data. I wasn't thinking those type of like hyper targeting. I wasn't thinking in that way. So those are things that, you know, that help you as well. It's just not sticking to your main idea, because things will change, but learn from people around you and be open to criticism and be open to changing to get to but don't forget your end goal that you have in mind. You ultimately want to get there, but there's different ways that you can get there. And you have to be open to all of those different avenues.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of different ways. Your GPS can have different routes to get to the same place, right? Maybe the highway, you may have to take the side roads. It may take a little longer. It may not be as fast, you know, maybe the long way. So, well, Shelly, I'm going to turn this back over to you and
thank you.
let you take it from here.
Thank you both very much. If we have time, we'll come back to Rashawn for Q&A with his co-founder. Right now, we're going to bounce to Adam Valenta, former student leader in the 3-day startup program at McFerrin Center for Entrepreneurship, and now based in Austin. Adam, you want to do the introduction for Tom Jackson?
Yeah, definitely. So I am based out of Austin right now. It's a beautiful day. I'm at Barton Creek right now. I hope everyone else is having a great day as well. So essentially, I couldn't find a bio on Tom, but I do understand that Tom is a analyst at Mercury Fund. He's based out of Austin, I believe, and they do investments in. I'm sorry, I'm doing this kind of off the cusp right now.
I can also hop in and give my bio.
Yeah.
There we go. That works. So I'm Tom Jackson. I'm a senior analyst at Mercury Fund. I've kind of been all over the startup world so far in my career. Founded a startup back in 2017. That's how Brian and I actually know each other through Quake. So how's it going, Brian? Good to see you again, man. And so started at Mercury about a month ago, and it's been kind of a dream of mine to get into VC for a while. So it's been fun so far.
Awesome, man. Congratulations on that. For everyone who's wondering about venture capital, it's extremely difficult to get into. I'm actually in the process of breaking into VC myself, so congratulations on getting that role. So I guess the first thing that I would like to start out with you is kind of talking about your prior startup. Dive in a little bit about what that experience was like, what you learned, and kind of your biggest takeaways.
Yeah, so I founded Locus Insights back in February of 2017. So I thought that post-undergrad I was going to go into consulting and love it, and it turned out I lasted about 6 months at Accenture. I was like, I hate this, and then ended up founding my own company. So we ended up going through Techstars Austin here, Quake Capital in Austin as well, raised a little money, but we built a product that used smartphone eye tracking to understand how a company's users engage with content on mobile. Because like clicks, there's like a 1.4 to 1.6 conversion rate on clicks. And so there's 98.6% of data that's not being captured about engagement on mobile. And so we built a B2B SaaS product and working with companies like Facebook and Instagram, Snapchat, HomeAway. And the biggest takeaways from that is just like how to run an early stage startup, like what you're taught from like in college and like from a consulting firm, at least. Like I'm a Longhorn admittedly, so we can all be friends right now though. But I was taught like a skill set that applies to a consulting firm or an investment banking firm or a large oil and gas company. And so going through a program like Techstars really, like I credit them and Quake for really putting me in the position that I am in now, because there's just so much that you have to learn about executing at a very, very early stage, because you don't have any money. The only resources that you really have are time and your own intelligence and your just ability to hustle. And so building up a great network, I think, was the most valuable thing that I've done. And the reason why that I've got the job at Mercury Fund is just building genuine relationships, because I love what I do, like helping wherever I can, giving without expectation of return, because it all comes back around. So like there's such a wide skill set that you have to develop when you're building an early stage company. And so figuring out what you're really good at and firing yourself from positions as soon as you possibly can by hiring somebody I would say those are the key takeaways that I've learned so far in my startup and VC career.
I absolutely love that. You touched on one thing that I hold very true to myself is the relationships that you develop through startup and through the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Could you maybe talk on someone that comes to mind that has really helped you through not only your startup process, but also getting into venture capital and people who have kind of guided you along the process?
Yeah, so I have like an endless list of people that have helped me get to this point. But one of my best mentors is a guy named Joe Corso. He and I met early on at Locus, and he's the guy that kept me sane throughout some of the toughest times, because being a CEO or a young founder is a very lonely journey, because you have to grow up very fast, especially when you hire employees that have families, and there's a lot more to think about than just yourself. And so for him, just teaching me to be a better CEO, really emphasize the value of people, because every time your startup doubles, your role as a founder, as a CEO, materially changes. And so you have to continue to grow with that, or if you can't, accept that fact and then find someone else to run the company for you. And so he was great for my growth in that regard. And then Mike Smirklo is a guy here in Austin. He's at Next Coast Ventures. He was a great mentor for me early on in my startup career as well, and getting into VC as well too. I've made a lot of really, really good friends who are associates or like junior level at other funds here in Austin. Like one of my best friends from college is a senior associate at Amplo, and we talk pretty much every single day about like, hey, like I'm looking at this deal. Like, do you think it's worth setting up to one of our partners? And so having really, really good people around you that are doing the same thing, especially in VC, as you're at, like I'm the gatekeeper for all four of our partners. And so like most of our deals go through me. And so I'm like the filtering mechanism, and I don't want to send a deal that's bad. And so I always bounce it around off of my other associate friends here in Austin and around the country.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Where do we go from here? I'm thinking about the ecosystem that we're in right now. We're in a pandemic, obviously, and I'm not sure how much Deshaun spoke about his experience thus far in the pandemic, but you got a job as a VC analyst in the middle of a pandemic. And what have you noticed through, I guess, the adaptations and the trends that have happened thus far pre-pandemic, and then watching it shift in the middle of this whole situation? And what kind of companies are you most excited about who are actually being fueled by coronavirus?
Yeah, so one of the most interesting spaces that I've seen recently, and that I've seen a lot of deals for recently, is tech-enabled services that replace a physical location. So like we're looking at a deal here in Austin that is mobile brake repair on demand. And so that replaces like your Jiffy Lube, and it solves the problem of breaking that trust barrier that you have with like a mechanic, because there's just general distrust. If I go to a mechanic, it's like, okay, what are they going to upsell me on? They're going to say like, my car is half broken and you need to pay me $10,000 to fix it. And so it fundamentally shifts that service model. And so that's something that COVID has really accelerated, is replacing physical locations with mobile on-demand services. And so, and then also too, on-demand gig or labor marketplaces are a really big thing now. So one of our portfolio companies is Build for Us. And so they do like electricians, HVAC, whatever else for construction contractors, pretty much on demand, where you can book into their platform. The last startup that I worked for, they were hospitality labor on demand. And so those are two kind of really big trends that we're seeing recently. And then also contactless, like last mile delivery is a very big space. Fetch Package, I think is what they're called. Fetch Logistics here in Austin just raised like a $30 million Series B, and that's a company that I've been bullish on for a long time now.
Could you reiterate what was the name of that company that just raised 30 million?
Fetch Package is what they are.
They're actually, they're in Capital Factory.
Yep.
Okay, interesting. Okay, cool. I didn't even hear about that raise.
Yep.
Okay, well, yeah, that's really, really awesome. I'm trying to think of anything else. What wakes you up in the morning? What gets you excited about the startup ecosystem and what your role is?
Yeah, so a typical 9 to 5 scares the shit out of me, pardon my French, but work is a really big part of my life, and being able to tangibly help a startup get through the toughest stages of fundraising, because like fundraising sucks. Like being a founder sucks, like straight up. And like, it's not for everybody. and you don't have any money to do anything, like you're working all the time, and you get told no by investors all the time, and like half the time you get ghosted, right? And so being able to materially help a startup, even if we don't invest, I'm going to try to make an intro or like whatever problem that you're facing right now, I'm going to try to help you with that. So that in 12 months from now, like we've built a good relationship, and now you're raising a Series A, like maybe too early. Now it's like, hey, we've built a good relationship. We know that it's a good mutual fit, because getting an investor off your cap table is harder than getting divorced. So it's like you really have to like think about it long term. And so that just helping startups is like really gets me up like out of bed in the morning. Like I'm an operator at heart, and so I still help some of our portfolio companies with random operational issues. And so yeah, it's really fun work, and I don't really consider it work for me. It's just like I have the best job in the world.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I think that is a pretty common characteristic among all of us who are involved. Shelley, did you have something to say?
Yeah, thank you very much, Tom. We need to move to Rebecca Taylor now, and we can come back for Q&A with all of our folks if we have time. But I really appreciate all of the things you shared with us, Tom. That was great.
Yeah, no problem.
Very from the heart.
There we go.
Becky?
Hey there.
There we go.
Yeah. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you. Appreciate the location change. We didn't explain that to the class, but COVID impacted us again.
Yeah, and very near miss. So yeah, it does happen. So I'm delighted to be here. I was wanting to connect in a little bit early to get a feel for what y'all are talking about, and to figure out how to craft what I'm saying so it's of interest to the group. So if I'm talking about something that's not helpful or not of interest, please redirect me. So my name is Rebecca Taylor. I've lived in Austin since the early 80s. I'm a recovered computer scientist and a bit of an inventor who got into the venture capital investing space in the 90s in Austin, largely by advising most of the early stage venture firms that were starting at that time. So I've been on both sides of the table, and Tom, you're right. Sometimes being a founder does kind of suck. It's hard to be raising money. And I'll share a few things from in the early 90s when I started my first company, because that's probably the closest analogy to what I think is of interest to the group here. Currently, I serve on the board of a very advanced deep technology AI startup investment company called Foundtech Ventures. And we are focusing on the very early stage, because one of the things we have noticed is that the investment sources for truly early stage companies, and here we're talking about an idea and maybe a proof of concept, but probably not, and definitely pre-revenue. And those are very tough areas for venture investment funds to invest in. And so we're trying to address part of the chasm at the very beginning of a startup's life. When I say deep tech, what I mean by that is it really is deep technology. This is not, about 40% of startups in Europe, for example, that were invested in last year on further examination don't actually have any AI technology inside them. So we are not looking for that kind of company. We're looking for really, truly deep tech AI. And the thing that we've done at Foundtech that's a little bit different is that we've chosen to start building the portfolio at the same time that we're raising our first tranche of $5 million into what will be a $35 million fund. And so since we're going into pre-seed, our plan is to go pre-seed, seed A and B, and to actually help develop these companies from the very beginning. So that's kind of what is going on with part of my day today. I serve on the board and am helping to raise the funds for the fund. And I'm occasionally giving some advice to some of the portfolio companies that we've already brought on board. The range of markets that our startups currently are addressing is pretty interesting. From education, imagine, if you will, a one-to-one tutor bot that can take any kind of information from anywhere and ingest it, digest it, and then turn around and teach it to you. in your language of choice and in the manner in answering questions that you might like to ask. So that's one very broad area of education, focused initially on corporate education and development. Second one is in the area broadly of sales prospects. Imagine if Salesforce could not only help you keep track of who you talk to and who you should talk to in a month, but if you came into work in the morning and say, hi, you should call these 10 people at these companies, here's their contact information, and this is why they're gonna buy your product. So again, an application of deep AI. And a third, and then I'll switch gears to talking about what I hope is of interest to you guys for your own careers. The third company in our portfolio is aimed at the restaurant and hospitality business to help restaurateurs figure out how to build their marketing campaigns and on top of what platforms to get the most bang for their buck for their limited marketing budget. And we have 2 or 3 others that we're looking at onboarding. So we're kind of taking on both the challenge of raising the funds for the fund and also bringing on these companies in exchange for an awful lot of handholding to get them through their early stage. So in terms of my own path as an entrepreneur, I started my first company in 1991, and that was a direct result of working for what at that time was the second largest computer company on earth, called Digital Equipment Corporation. It was a Fortune 50 company, and I worked in the field with customers doing all kinds of first-time systems. And digital started to fall apart and was in the process of being sold to Compaq. And I loved that company, but it had started to change. So I left, and with the encouragement of some customers who really wanted access to me, and they were worried that if the company went out of business or got sold, they wouldn't be able to do that. And so I got a very large market signal that leaving the company to serve those customers was the right thing to do for me, for digital, and for the customers. And so by paying attention to the market signal, even though I was a mom of a 3-month-old with an unemployed husband at home at the time, the risk profile there was ridiculous. But because I had those market signals from potential customers, I had what I needed in order to get my business, my consulting business, off the ground. And so for 5 years after that, all of my business was word of mouth. And I would strongly encourage anybody who can figure out how to do the word of mouth thing online. It's incredibly valuable. So after that is when I started meeting the venture firms and funds that were starting to get created here in Austin in the mid to late 90s. And then after that, I started a few companies and took some venture funding of my own into those companies, and away we went. And so I spend a lot of my time these days mentoring companies. I'm part of the Austin Technology Incubator Mentor Program. Some wonderful companies, one of whom the founder was just nominated as one of Austin's 25 under 25. And I get a large charge out of helping and advising and otherwise watching these companies mature. So long career in technology, happy to answer any questions about startups. Have been involved in many startups over the last 25 years or so. And as I said, I spend a lot of my time right now being a mentor to others. Shelley, I hope that's what you kind of wanted me to talk about. Are you there, Shelley?
Sorry about that. I had to get unmuted. Thank you very much, Becky. I really appreciate your help and your involvement in this on short notice and rolling with us on the change in location from Draper's Startup House to Zoom. I'm sorry that we won't get to meet in person this time, but next time.
Yes, I look forward to seeing you.
So we're going to shift now, and I'm going to, oh, I'm sorry, I have a delay. I'm sorry, what did you say?
Do you want me to stick around for Q&A later, or are we done?
If you can.
Okay.
If you can. What we try to do is a lot of the students don't think of questions until the end.
Okay.
So, and so then there's a chance to talk informally.
Okay.
So Adam, can we jump to, thank you very much, Becky, really appreciate it. Adam, would you please jump to Jonathan Samuel with Zoom Utils? He's online, and then we'll do Eduardo Machina, another student founder.
Yeah, definitely. Is Jonathan on? I can't see him.
I'm right here.
Hey, what's up, Jonathan?
Hey, how are you?
It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, it was great.
Could you give a little summary of who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a junior, class of 2022. I'm an engineering major, ESET. Do you want me just to go straight into Zoom Utils, or what exactly were you looking for? I think you're muted.
Yes, let's talk about Zoom Utils.
Yeah, so, Zoom Utils kind of came about right after spring break when we were all home. And, I just got really annoyed at all the Zoom meetings that my professors were sending. It was just a lot to keep track of. And I was like, there's got to be a better way than just either writing it down or going through my email just to get into class. So, I just spent a day. I made, something for myself. I said, okay, I'll make myself a little Chrome extension. Which at the time I was always wanted to make a Chrome extension. So I was like, oh, you know what? I'll just take a hand at it and see what I can make. And, I spent the night, coding, and Zoom Utils was born, my very first, the very MVP, like minimal viable product. And then fast forward, to the summer, I just decided, on a whim, I'll just put on the Chrome Web Store, see, if anyone else finds use of it. And I guess fast forward, and I had like 400 users, which to me at the time was crazy. I've never had, anyone use anything I've ever built, to that level. So, I was like, yeah, you know what, I'll take some time. I spent like almost, 2 weeks, and I just recoded the entire thing, made it look super fancy, added a few features. And then, yeah, I guess that's what Zoom Utils looks like now. So I guess that's kind of like the build process.
Nice, awesome. So I'm trying to think. So would you consider yourself?
I'm going to jump in, Adam.
Okay.
Adam, I'm going to jump in real quick because I'm working with Jonathan. And I know this one is cold. You weren't prepared for him, but stay on. I want you to continue. But Jonathan, you went from 400 users to how many now in 2 months? And how many meetings have you facilitated?
Yeah, so first of all, huge thanks to Ms. Bregman. She helped me with so many meetings and so many important people. So I'm eternally grateful. But I went from about 400 to about I guess it's about 9,000 now. Through some targeted like pushing it out, I guess targeted. And then I think we've assisted more than 140,000 meetings. Just from people, using it to get into the meetings, get into their classes. So yeah, there's a lot. Zoom Utils has helped a lot of people, which is, really affirming, super, super crazy. Yeah.
Do you want to take it from here, Shelly?
Nope, you're on.
Okay, cool.
You're the master.
That's really interesting. That's really interesting to hear, and also extremely adaptable. Thinking on your feet and solving not only a problem for a lot of people, but a problem for yourself. I think that is one of the main things that keeps entrepreneurs going, is that a lot of entrepreneurs who create successful companies, they're not just solving a problem for a market, they're solving a problem for themselves that they had initially. So it's very interesting that you executed pretty quickly. How long did it take you to code that MVP and to get it to market?
So MVP, that took me probably, like 4 or 5 hours. But again, that was probably the ugliest thing I've ever coded in my life, but it worked. I would say that, honestly, because I had the MVP ready, like recoding it didn't take that long. I would say I was pushing out updates almost, every 2 days. Once I was pushing out my revamped product. So, I would say all in all, in about hours, I'd say maybe 3 days worth of work, 3 to 5 days of work of full on. But really, I think the biggest, Zoom Utils is a simple part, but I think really the hard part was, pushing it out to college students and finding my audience. Like it's, I think that's what consumed my time the most. It's just trying to figure out how to push it out to people. Yeah, I guess that's, that's what took most of my time.
Yeah, interesting. And I guess that kind of segues perfectly into this question that Lucas asked. How do you balance Zoom Utils with school?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always been ready for it, because I mean, honestly, since freshman year, I mean, I also work on Provis IT, which is like, the people who make, like A&M websites and stuff. So I've always had a decent, understanding of how to, like definitely freshman year, I had no idea how to balance school and work life. There was no clear. So, and, I've been doing it for 3 years. So I've kind of had some clues. I guess really how I, look at it is, I have to dedicate each, if I say I'm going to work here, or if I'm going to go to class here, I have to dedicate each time for it. The actual balancing act of Zoom Utils, I kind of built somewhat of a team. So, it can be really a lot of the work, pushing it out to social media and stuff, instead of me taking the time and making all that, I just push it out to someone else. So I say, hey, do it, or do this interview, or go talk to this college or something like that. So I push out, work a little bit more, and I try to focus on the big picture that help me balance out. So yeah, it's also pretty important, I'd say.
Nice, awesome. That's good to hear. I think everyone in this class should go ahead and start using Zoom Utils if you haven't started using it. Some people have already said that they already use it, so that's pretty cool.
Adam, we're going to need to shift to Eduardo now. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Trying to keep everybody going here. So sorry.
No, you're good.
He's on Firefox. So.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Stick around for Q&A if we've got time. Thank you.
Eduardo. Hey, Shelly, I think you know a little bit more about Eduardo than I do. Would you like to lead this?
No, but I'll give his introduction. Eduardo Martinez has put together. Eduardo,
Okay,
you guys just start talking.
Adam, you've done a great job improvising, though. You've done a great job, I have to say.
Thank you. I'm trying to be conversational right now. Thanks, Shelly. Could you? I'll just let Eduardo do his introduction, and then we'll just go off the cusp.
Oh yeah. So well, my name is Eduardo Marchena. I'm an agribusiness student here at A&M. I'm actually a junior, and Shelly loves to say this about me, but I'm from Costa Rica, so I came here to study. And I'm actually working with Shelly in the Food Plus City incubator, which was an incubator based in Austin. They're bringing it back here to the Bryan College Station area, and it's based on mostly agriculture and tech. So it's mostly on fighting, trying to revamp the urban agriculture setting, And yeah, that's my big intro.
See, interesting. That was very eloquent. I feel like I've met you before. Were you in 3-Day Startup or anything?
Yeah. I was in 3DS. I think it was a year ago, maybe. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Cool. That's exactly where I met you.
Yeah.
Well, look at you now. Look at where you're at a year from now.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, so far, what's the most exciting thing that you've worked on so far with this project?
With Shelly, well, it's been a challenge actually. Because Shelly tasked me, basically she wanted to make me to make a team. So I was assembling a team of trying to assemble a team of a multidisciplinary and diverse team of people to help me mostly with the market research to see if the incubator would be something stable here in downtown Bryan. So yeah, that's it's been actually, yeah, it was a challenge at first getting some people in, but once you really get into try to like the pitch stuff, once you really practice it, I think that you can really get some people interested. So it's just the practicing, I believe so.
Yeah, definitely. So would you say, well, have you assembled the team thus far, and how many people are on your team?
Yeah, so the team is actually right now it's pretty it's small. It's a team of 5, most in Maze mainly, because since we're trying to focus right now on the market research, we'll probably be adding something some more like engineers or maybe like computer science kind of people later on when startups begin coming over here. So because we need a lot, I mean, people from like a variety of disciplines. The more knowledge, the better we think together. So a variety of skill sets, it's what the incubator would be like looking for.
Right, right. I'm gonna ask this question that Lucas asked.
Yeah,
By the
for
way,
sure.
Lucas, you're asking some fire questions. Is what you're doing like reversing the agriculture revolution and switching from growing food in a method of mass production to more homegrown?
Okay, so that's a pretty straight up question, but no, that it's not exactly that. I wouldn't say so. However, I would say it's more of it's just bringing an incubator, so basically providing opportunities to optimize or make um the urban agriculture setting more efficient in order to continue improving like the systems and the distribution of food in cities and that kind of stuff. So to some extent, I would say to a very low extent, yes, but it's a low extent for sure.
Good deal.
Interesting.
So and Adam and Eduardo, how can people reach you if they want to join?
Oh, if people want to reach me, I'll write up my contact info right here in the chat. 'Cause I would love if, yeah, I would love it. That's my email. So if anyone wants to reach out, just email me. I would love to, yeah, chat with you guys and maybe show you a bit more about the project.
Good deal.
Cool. Awesome.
Adam, thank you, and Eduardo, thank you. Can we shift now to Renee? You know Renee from earlier this morning, and
Yes,
let
I
her
got
talk a little bit about what
extremely
she's
hyped
working
about
on.
her product. I love Renee's product. So Renee, would you like to give a little introduction to yourself? I think the women in the audience will be very appreciative of your product.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I don't know if there's any way I could share my screen. I figured it'd actually be quicker if I just did a little bit of the pitch deck. Hey everybody, my name is Renee. I'm the founder and CEO of RenzoBox. I'm also a licensed architect. So hey Rodney, I started in the building and construction industry, and RenzoBox has been a bit of a career change and shift for me because it is a startup in the beauty industry. So this is the RenzoBox. I want to show you guys really quick. Can you see my screen okay? We good? Yes? No?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, this is the RenzoBox. The RenzoBox is the best way to combine all of your beloved makeup products into one streamlined, refillable case. And the way it works is there's 2 compartments. This top layer is a customizable palette. These refills are modular like Lego pieces. So they pop, this slides out and they pop in and out. We do not formulate the makeup that goes in them. What we do is we partner with different brands and provide their formulation in these refill pods. When you run out of product, you simply pop them out and order new ones for refill. So this actually makes it sustainable. We reduce single-use plastic in the typical makeup routine by up to 80%. And this combination factor is really important because on average, makeup wearers wear 6 products from 5 different brands. The lower compartment is for non-palette based products. And in this hinge right here, we actually have a secret storage compartment for your brushes so they can stay separate and they don't get crushed. When it's time to refill, you use our digital curation tool called Renzo V, and this is where you build your customized palette. So you can kind of think of it as like the app store where you would go to kind of like customize and build the products that you want for your iPhone. And we had so essentially we sit between the brands and the customers. So we provide a personalized beauty experience for consumers, a new innovative distribution channel for the brands, all within a sustainable delivery system. One of the things I didn't talk about this morning that I wanted to kind of explain a little bit more about our company is that we actually gained some really interesting key insights about makeup wearers, unique combinatorial data of what is in her makeup bag, what is she really using, what are the holy grail products, and then given those combinations, what brands and products is she going to buy. And all of this is available through the profiles in our digital platform. So this is what we're building, hardware and software startup.
That's so exciting. I wanted to ask you about early traction and early realizations that you had by doing, proving out the concept. What are some of those points that you discovered through, proving out the initial product?
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever you hear things about minimum viable product, it really is absolute minimum. And my minimum viable product was not even a physical product. It was a rendering, a photorealistic rendering. I took 2 interns out to LA. We went to this conference called BeautyCon, which is like the Comic-Con of the beauty industry. I don't know if you guys know of Comic-Con, but it happens for a weekend in LA, and anyone who's like obsessed with beauty goes out to the LA Convention Center. And the 3 of us, we did this like guerrilla marketing thing. We just walked around with these photorealistic renderings, and like our makeup bags, our like disgusting makeup bags. And we just talked to people about the product and explained it to them. And we pre-sold about a dozen units of this thing that did not exist. So, and just like engaging with potential customers, watching their reaction, like, if people will give you money for something that doesn't exist yet, and I even told them, this was like in August, and I was like, yeah, we'll have it by December, thinking that, we could do that. But anyway, so that was my first traction when I knew that this was something.
So you said you pre-sold. Did you pre-sell at $150, the price of the box?
No, actually at BeautyCon, I think we pre-sold for about $100. I can't remember exactly, but it was somewhere around $100, which is also kind of amazing, right?
Still, I mean, I guess that just goes to show you that people are willing to buy based on perspectives. And if you can hype them up and get them emotional about the product, and if you're solving a problem, which I think you are, truthfully. Okay, interesting. I absolutely love that. So, so you've had to patent the box, is that correct?
Yes, we did file for intellectual property. Yeah.
So that's something that is often understated in the entrepreneurship process of going about getting patents. So could you dive in a little bit about that and what that experience was like?
Yeah, absolutely. So we filed a utility patent, and the patent, it's still pending, but the patent actually covers the concept more broadly of modular components within, like for the use of cosmetics. And basically, so right now when you look at the pods or those modular units, they're rectangular, but imagine they were triangular or hexagonal or whatever shape, but essentially it's like this unitized component system, and any integer of that unit occupying a gridded platform for the purpose of cosmetics. Like, this is what the patent covers. And the process is very long, but initially I filed a provisional patent, which is actually I know Rodney talks about provisional patents, I believe, in this class. And that's a much more, that's an easier process, I should say. And it gave me the confidence to be able to go out there and start working on this and talking to people about it without thinking that, oh my gosh, what if what if someone else wants to jump in and knows more about the beauty industry than me and can like swoop in and get this done faster. But it gave me the confidence to move forward.
Great job, Renee.
Thank you, Rodney.
So I don't know if you're looking at the chat, Renee, but it seems like people do like the idea of this product. So one of the questions from Lucas, again, Lucas, you're just hitting it up with all these questions. These are great. What's your user retention like?
Great
Or your
question.
customer retention?
Yeah, our customer retention is sitting at 60% right now.
Wow, that's like Netflix stats.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm excited about it.
That's very, very good. What does growth look like for you?
What does growth look like?
Yeah, honestly, I'm trying to think of it like do you have like any analytics of what your traction scale looks like?
Yeah, our traction scale, it looks good. I mean, when we get to year 4, we're looking at, 500,000 users and close to 100 million revenue based off of, and what's really cool is that the pod revenue actually eclipses the box revenue. That's actually looking at it really conservatively. If we get let's say like a YouTube influencer, someone really big that could hit this product, like we could, 500,000 users in the world of beauty is actually not that many. So yeah, I mean, it's really interesting when you project this forward. We're actually a marketplace, so we have to deal with both supply side and demand side. And so the next step in our business is actually a brand pilot. And I could talk forever about this. I don't want to take everyone's time, but essentially we need to prove value to the brands as well, which we do. We actually reduce their cost of good, and we can give them metrics around sustainability that they really need. But as soon as we have a good year-long metrics for them, then we'll be able to acquire any brands that we want to.
See, that's really interesting. Hey, Shelly, I just want to make sure that we're good on time.
Yes, let's. I would like to talk to Omar just for one real quick minute. He's been working out of Draper Startup House, and he's with GoDaddy. So I want to give him a couple minutes to talk about what he's doing. And I think you've got 1 or 2 more questions. One in particular from Becky. Before we leave Renee and jump to Omar, can you answer Becky's question, or have Renee answer it?
Yeah, absolutely. Any chance you can apply this approach to designing sustainable housing?
That's a really great question, Becky. Becky, are you an architecture major?
No, I'm a startup person.
Ah, okay, got it. With sustainable housing and having a background in architecture, I can say there are people who have tried this, and there are just so many different components that have to go into a building, from HVAC, plumbing, fenestrations, or fancy word for windows, and and how you can basically like create all the components. Think about it like when you're putting together an IKEA kit or like IKEA furniture, and all the little components that are unique that have to fit together. When you get into a building that's just expanded by so much, and then everyone wants to be able to kind of like customize it to be their own. So you get into a lot of factors that are more difficult to replicate at that scale. With that said, there are people trying, and they're trying to build them in warehouse sort of factors. People in Texas who are trying. There are also people who are trying to do like 3D printed sort of mass housing and that kind of stuff. So maybe we'll get there one day. Maybe when we have drones that can help us with the construction process, or other kind of cool technology like that, then I don't know, we'll see. Maybe Becky, you're the person to tackle that problem.
I was actually thinking of you, Renee, given where you came from.
Well, I'll tell you what, Becky, let's have a conversation. Maybe we could be co-founders in that.
Very, very good idea. A timeless problem that you have chosen to tackle.
Now, students probably have a lot to ask.
Okay, let's. Omar, do you have anything you want to add about Draper, or should we jump into Q&A?
I mean, I could say, like, for me, like, I'm taking kind of like an untraditional path. Like I still have a full-time job at GoDaddy, which is like a pretty big company, but at the same time, I still do videography, and that's what I work on when I'm not.
You're with GoDaddy?
Yes.
Oh, good.
I'm a creative specialist for GoDaddy, which means I handle the social media accounts of 212 companies all over the country, and I do all their posting and all their community management. But on my own time, I do videography, and I like to handle like startup videos for early stage companies that have products. Typically, is my kind of forte. And actually, I just got back from Houston last weekend from shooting one of what I call the Ferrari of paddleboards. So once I get that edited, I'll share that with y'all. But yeah, so you don't have to, like, your entrepreneurship journey doesn't stop if you get a job. You can keep it going. You just have to make sure you're putting that time out there. That's pretty much all I have to say.
Good deal. Omar, I think Becky wants your contact information in the chat. Adam and everyone, thank you so much for your participation. I really appreciate the flexibility. There's a few comments in there, Omar, for you, so be sure you look at them. And let's real quick go to Q&A with the students and anyone else that's got questions for who's left from our lecture today, our session.
I actually find this one question really interesting because it's something that I went through whenever I was at Texas A&M. The question is, what are some tips to get investors and resources such as figuring out how to build an app, advertising, etc., from campus or just in general while in school? I think, well, whenever I was going through the process of Happier, I basically cut out majority of my social life, so I wasn't I guess getting the college experience as much, and I completely, once I was done with school, I would go and I would actually teach myself how to like use a WXD. So for mobile app development, mobile app design, that's essentially what I was doing. Was I would just get home at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and go and, you know, just hash out some hours of practicing and designing apps. And then also, as for getting investors, if you have a good idea and you have a product to show for it, reaching out to them. And just, I have a personal CRM on Airtable. If anyone is familiar with Airtable, I have a personal CRM with Airtable that notifies me every 45 days when I need to follow up with someone and remain in contact with them. So if you just fill out a list of investors that you think would fit your idea and your product, then build that out and send out as cold email outreach and stuff like that. And if you know someone who's like Shelly can get you in contact with investors or people who are well connected to investors. People like Becky, let's say your idea is in deep tech. She would be extremely useful. And if she doesn't invest in your company, she's still a very useful contact to have to potentially talk you through problems. Yeah, that's my take on that question. If anyone has any backup to that question, I would love to hear it as well.
Great. Thank you all so much. I mean, you've been fantastic.
I have a question for Becky.
Okay, I'm here.
I read a book a while back. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called The Code. It's pretty much like how Silicon Valley developed, like from its origin. I was wondering, because you said you've been in the like Austin tech scene or VC scene for a long time. Do you think like Austin's going to be the next Silicon Valley, like with all these like Apple, Tesla, all these companies bringing part of the headquarters there?
Well, I think it's already a true statement that if you want to work for Silicon Valley, you don't need to leave Austin anymore. Yeah, there's enough presence here of substantially all of the technologies, and this is independent of Silicon Valley, but Austin has always had representation, at least for the last 35 years, of everything from sand to movies relating to technology, from processor design to operating system development to every application you can think of. And truly movie production, one of the first digital movies ever made was recorded here in Austin. And so, you know, I think that's kind of today. And the biggest challenge Austin has is in getting the investment and other pieces, major pieces of the ecosystem like funding, up to the same level of intensity that exists in Silicon Valley. And that's part of the reason I agreed to join the board of this fund, is I want to help address that gap. So I don't know if that answers your question. It's kind of a strong yes. That you know, and from a United States perspective, we need more than one area that is fully developed like that.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Adam. Becky.
So, yeah, I'm delighted to be here always. This is a passion of mine to reach out and help the next bunch. Shelley, do you want me to put my email address in the chat, or do you want to share it by email?
If you could put it in the chat, I did see a few people asking for it, and then we can, if you want, I can send it to Rodney, and Rodney can share it with his class.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'll put it in right now.
Thank you, everyone.
Renee, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Rodney, for hosting us.
All right.
Thank you, Rodney.
It's always great to be in your classroom, Rodney.
Thank you, Shelley. You're fabulous.
Appreciate it.
My pleasure, and we all enjoy it.
Hey, Renee, thank you.
Great session.
I had a great time. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Adam, again.
No, great job.
Look forward to the next one. Bye-bye now.
See you guys.
All right.
Thanks so much for having me, Rodney. It was great to see you again. It's been too long.
A year a day, it is.
Take care.